everybody, welcome back to Meals with Marsha. Today I'm going to continue my Thanksgiving favorite meals, and I'm going to show you guys how I make my homemade dressing. Now there's several steps to this, and you don't have to be afraid. It's not that difficult. It is just some time consuming. It takes some planning and some doing. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I also wanted to tell you that I made cornbread is how I do my dressing, but I also have shared my cornbread recipe with everybody, excuse me, on my Meals with Marsha page on YouTube, so you can go back and look at that. But I double my recipe, and I also wanted to show you the skillet that I use. I use a larger skillet, which is this large, I say medium size cast iron skillet, and it's my cornbread, and I always double the recipe, so you can refer back to that video. Now, one thing we're going to do is I've cooked it this morning and I've let it cool, so I'm just going to start crumbling it up with my hands. I'm going to be using my hands a lot. I've washed them with soap and water. They're clean, but dressing is something that you kind of have to just get in there with your hands and work with, so just bear with me. I have a funny story about dressing. First of all, I'm just going to crumble all this up and get it crumbled up pretty fine with my hands. Now, you can use a food processor if you wanted to run it through, but I think it makes it just a little bit too fine because you do want some bigger pieces in there. You want to crumble most of it up, but crumbling it with your hands I think is best, but you can use a food processor if you're pressed for time. Anyway, first time I ever made dressing by myself. I'd helped my mom make it over the years. I'd watched my granny make it, and I had my granny's recipe. But my husband calls me one day. I'm at home with the kids. It's Thanksgiving holiday, probably about 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving. At the time, I worked for the school system, so I was out of school. And he was like, "Hey, babe, we had a guy that was going to make dressing for our Thanksgiving dinner at work, and he wasn't able to do it at the last minute, and said, I told him that you'd be glad to do it." And I was like, I just panicked. I was like, okay, first of all, I don't have any cornbread made. And this was like at 7:30, 8 o'clock that morning, and I had to have it down there by 12. So talk about somebody scrambling. So I pulled out my granny's recipe, and got my cornbread started, and I got it done. I made it, and it turned out great. But I am telling you what, that was a stressful time. Him asking me at the last minute to do that dressing, but I got it done, and everybody was happy. So, and it tasted good. Now I want to talk to you about my granny's recipe. She made amazing dressing. It was really moist and it was delicious. And like I said, I used her recipe. I took it, it's kind of the base of it, and then I just kind of put my own twist on it. I do a few things that she doesn't do. In the beginning, I did exactly what she did outside of, she put oyster or something in there. I don't do that. But I was just learning, and I did exactly what she did. But anyway, as I learned more, I've added some other stuff to mine and made it a little bit different, but it's basically close to the same thing. Okay, I'm still crumbling here. These are pretty good for the most part, but I got most of that. I may go back and do a little bit more. Now, I either add 5 pieces of loaf bread, and you can just tear those up, or I use my leftover biscuits. What I usually do, if I make a pan of biscuits, I put them in a freezer bag, and I just put them in the freezer. So I have laid these out a couple hours ago and let them thaw out. These are just biscuits I made a while back, and I'm just going to use about 4 or 5 of those, and I'm going to crumble those up in here because I'm choosing not to use light bread, loaf bread, however you call it. But I'm going to use these biscuits. They work out just as well, but if you don't have leftover biscuits, you can use light bread. And like I said, it calls for 4 or 5 slices of bread. So I'll do, I don't know, probably all these biscuits. There's like 4 or 5 in here. I'll probably use them all. And biscuits crumble up a lot easier than cornbread. Let's get all that crumbled up in there. Now this makes a lot. You can half this recipe. You can do a small skillet and just do half of what I do, but I am trying to do a large quantity. This is what I would do if I was doing Thanksgiving at my house, so we would have a couple of pans so everybody would have plenty to eat. But now I'll tell you another thing that I do, and what I'm going to be doing today, because I'm sharing this with y'all. I'm going to freeze some of this. I'm going to do a couple of pans and freeze it, because it's great like to go ahead and put together and just don't bake it and freeze it. cover it with foil and just pull it out, thaw it up a little bit, and then just bake it, and it's delicious. So I wanted to do that today while I'm doing it. And dressing's one of those things you have to drag out a lot of stuff, and it takes a lot of stuff, so might as well cook several pans while you're at it. Okay, I think we're about there. You want it crumbly, but you're okay to have a few chunks, and they're not too big of a chunks, but you can just keep running your hands through it and getting those out. And then some people choose not to use an iron skillet because they think the cornbread crumbles up a lot easier if you just put it in a 9x13 baking dish and just bake it. Make sure you grease it so it don't stick, but you don't have to worry about that crust. But we like that crust on our cornbread. We like the flavor that brings and what that gives, but some people like to do theirs just in a 9x13 pan, and that's okay too. You put your own spin on it, you make it your own. Okay, well, I think we're about there. So that's the consistency of it, and you're gonna need a really large bowl like what I have. You're thinking, man, that's a huge bowl, but by the time you put all your other stuff in there and get everything going, you're gonna need this space. Okay, I'm referring back to my chicken and dressing recipe because this is something I do seasonal. I don't cook this every day. I have a chicken and dressing casserole that's really quick and easy if you're just craving some chicken and dressing during the year and it's not, holiday time. I'm going to share that with you too. And for those that are not brave enough to try the full-blown homemade cornbread dressing, that's a good alternative if you're just wanting to, wanting to do something like that for your family, but you're not sure if you're ready to take on dressing yet. But I'm going to be sharing that too. I hope to do that during my holiday, my Thanksgiving holiday meals. Like I said, I'm excited to share with you some of the things that we like to do for Thanksgiving and all that, and I hope you'll be brave enough to try it. All right, that's what it looks like. Now, the next thing is I have taken 2 to 3 stalks. I think it was 3 stalks of, I can't even think now, I can't even talk. 3 stalks of celery, and I've cut it up in my little chopper, like really small, because we like the flavor of celery and an onion, but we don't like the big crunch. My family does not like that. And then I took 1 medium onion, and I sauteed that with a stick of butter. And then I just basically, I did it like on medium heat, so it would just, saute and not like, or get translucent. I don't know what I'm trying to say, I guess, so it won't burn or anything, but just get softened in there. I'm gonna go ahead and set this over here on the counter. All right, put that in. And then I just boiled 1 large chicken breast, and I just kind of tore it up. You don't really need a lot of chicken for this because this has a lot of flavor in it, this dish. And usually when you make this, you're going to serve turkey with it, or, on the side or whatever. Well, I'm making a mess. So just 1 large chicken breast, and I have reserved the stock from boiling that chicken because I may need it just in case my dressing is not moist enough when I use the other. Okay. Let me put this over there. All right, now I need 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. I'm gonna open those. I may have to get me a spoon out, a smaller spoon. I think that one's gonna work. Put that in there. You just dump everything in the pot and start mixing. And I have shared this before, Thanksgiving is by far my favorite holiday. I always try to be thankful every day, no matter what I'm dealing with or what I'm going through or what I'm facing. I always try to be thankful for what I do have and for the life that God's given me. I'm blessed. But it's just a good time. Everybody just comes together and everybody eats, and it's about, gathering around the table and being together. It's not about, making sure somebody has a gift or all that. So that's why I like Thanksgiving. It's my favorite. I do love Christmas too, though. Don't get me wrong. All right, I need to do 3 eggs. I'm sorry, I only have 2. I need to go get another egg. I'm sorry about that. Let me go get 1 more egg. All right, and we need to beat them. That beat up good. I'm just going to add that in. Okay. Right. And then we need some chicken broth, and we need ground sage, and we need poultry seasoning. Now, some people don't like to put sage in their dressing. They think it's too strong. But now, if you buy poultry seasoning, I believe it has a little sage in it. So, but we like to do, you know, maybe, I don't know, half a teaspoon maybe of sage, just a little. And then we're going to do 1 to 2 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. And like I said, poultry seasoning has a little bit of sage already in there. Get that out. I'm going to do a teaspoon and a half of that. Or maybe 2 teaspoons. I got a lot. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. Okay. And that's poultry seasoning. And you can buy that in your spice aisle. Poultry seasoning and sage. Sometimes when I cook with sage, it gets my husband's allergies going. I'm just going to stir that just a little bit, okay? Incorporate that just a little bit. Now I'm going to start adding my chicken broth. I brought my salt and pepper over here. I salt and peppered the celery and the onions when I was sweating them off. But I'm not going to do that because there's a lot of salt in the soup and there's a lot of salt in the broth that we're going to be using. So I don't know that I'll be needing any salt and pepper. But I'll taste it and then we'll see from there. Well, if I can get this lid off. There it went. And this, whoop, this is a 32-ounce chicken broth. And you're going to probably need every bit of it, maybe more. Now this needs to be the consistency, a thin consistency, because it's going to absorb all of that juice. And the cornbread is going to absorb all that juice. And you think, man, that's already thin. But I'm telling you, it thickens up quick. So you really need to make it like the consistency of what like a cornbread mixture would be. Like if you're making cornbread, you need to make it like that consistency. This looks pretty good, but it's going to absorb that up. So I need to add a little bit more. And what I've done is, like I said, I used that box, but I saved my broth from when I cooked my chicken. So I'm just going to slowly add some of that in. And get that going. And like I said, you want the consistency of what cornbread would be like if you were making cornbread. It's looking a little better now. Let's see if we can get it going in there. Maybe just a little more broth. But after you do it a time or two, you understand what you want the consistency to be like. It just doesn't need to be too dry. There's nothing worse than eating dry dressing. It's terrible. Okay, let's see what that's doing. Let me feel that. Now, just a tad more. And I think we're there. I'm going to taste it and see if it needs any more seasoning in it. And we'll go from there. Yeah, I think the consistency is perfect. Let me get a spoon. Yeah, I think that's perfect. All right, guys. And that medium skillet, I meant to tell you, of cornbread, it makes it's about 8 cups of cornbread. When you crumble it up, it's about 8 cups. And I would say you got about 5 cups when you crumble up the biscuits, maybe 4 to 5 cups. All right, I think that's it. And you want to see how that consistency is. It's wiggly, almost like cornbread mixture. All right, now I'm going to put it in this pan. Let me get some more of my stuff up. You get me a measuring cup. Okay. I'm going to use this to keep it out. Now I'm going to spray this because, like I said, I'm going to freeze it. I've got another pan back here. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need, but I'm going to go ahead and use this one and get it ready. Smooth it out with this spoon. That's a good sized pan right there. All right, let's get the other pan over here. Like I said, you can easily half this recipe as well. If you don't want to do it all, don't want one that big. But as you see, it makes a lot. Okay. There you go. You got 2 big pans. Now, I'm just going to cover this. I've got some lids that have the foil on the inside. I'm just going to snap those down on there, and I'm going to freeze them in the freezer, and when I'm ready, I'll cook them. I'll get them out and we'll cook them, and we'll have us a little dressing. And what we'll do is, if I was going to cook this today, I would put these in a 400-degree oven. I would cover it with foil, and I would cook it for 45 minutes. And then I would remove the foil, and I would cook it for about 10 minutes to just make sure the top's brown, because you want the top to kind of look brown, but you want the inside to be moist, okay? Now, if you take it out of the freezer and you're going to cook it, you're going to have to let it sit out and thaw out, and then you're going to cook it exactly the same way. I'm going to try to put all this in the description. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you like it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Meals with Marsha, and like this video and share. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.